Hey everyone, welcome to another Webflow community live stream. I'm your host Nelson. Thank you for joining me today. Uh, as always, I always like to say hi to everyone who's in the live chat right now, and to everyone who's just watching. And if you're watching a recording of this, thank you so much. So, who's first in the door? We have Peter. Hello, beautiful people. Hello to you as well. And also, I always like to know where are you watching from. So we have Ismail from Uruguay. I can't, ah, welcome. We have Lich, I think. Welcome, Michael, the Marine from Texas. That's Steven from Florida. I know him. Christopher, Kyle, welcome back. And Scott Humphrey, welcome everyone. And again, we appreciate each and every one of you, wherever you're watching from, and also if you're watching recording. So what I want to start off with first, before we get into the agenda, is some community announcements. Okay, so we have these. I want to keep telling people what's happening around the community every time we start a live stream. So first off, if you haven't heard, let me go to my browser real quick. Where's my mouse? There it is. All right. Tomorrow, March 24th, 12:30 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. So use a time zone converter to find out what time that is happening locally. But the global open house for the Webflow and no code community. So again, this is hosted by the wonderful people over at FinSuite. And we're going to have a special appearance by Vlad Magdalene, our CEO here at Webflow, and then a community panel, including Grimmer. You might have seen him on some micro lessons or Figma to Webflow course videos that we help produce here on the Webflow education team for university.webflow.com. So yeah, he's going to be there. I'm going to be there as well tomorrow talking with you, the community. So lots of things happening, and go ahead and register if you haven't already. Go to global-meetup.webflow.io. You can register for updates here, but I hear that there's more than 500, maybe over 600 people that's going to be here. So, yeah, you want to get in on this. Get in on this. All right. Second thing I wanted to talk about, community grants. So last week or the week before, gosh, time goes so fast. Webflow is committing 10 million. Should I use my pinky? $10 million for the Webflow community. So, if you're interested in starting your own micro community, starting a YouTube channel or something like that to help the Webflow community grow, drop your email address right here and we'll let you know when we open these grants up for you. All right. And last thing, just this morning, episode 3 of the Generation No Code docuseries just dropped. So if you have time right after this stream, go ahead and watch that. It's going to be very empowering and inspiring. John D. Saunders is a great friend and wonderful human being of the no code community. Watch that. And so with that being said, let's see here. Who else is here in the live chat? Edu from Peru and Daniel from Germany. Welcome, welcome. And Sam Harris is back. Harrison is back. Awesome. All right, so let's get into the agenda, what we're going to be doing today. So, as you can see by the title below, we're doing our first staff interview, and it's with design system engineer Katie Fujihara. All right. And so the reason why I wanted to do these type of streams is because I want the staff to meet the community and the community to meet people who help build Webflow. All right. And she'll also be talking about what it's like to work here at Webflow, and we'll also open the door for any Q&A at the end of the hour. And quick disclaimer for the Q&A, you can ask your questions at any time during this stream, and our moderators will sift through them and send them over to me. But just a reminder, we're not allowed to talk about any features that have yet to be released or any feature updates. We usually leave that for bigger announcements with the product and marketing team. So no questions about that kind of stuff. But with that being said, let's bring our special guest onto the stream, design system engineer Katie Fujihara. Welcome, Katie.
Hello, thanks for having me today, Nelson. I feel so special to kick off this staff interview series thing.
Well, you are a special person. Again, you help build Webflow for the community, and it's just wonderful to see every time the team releases a feature. It's just wonderful to see what the community does with it. It's like opening. I know I've heard from the community before. Whenever a new release comes out, and then you see that since you've been gone pop up, they're like, "Oh my god, it's like Christmas," or it's like it's my birthday. I get to open it up and new toy. What do I do with it? So, before we jump into what you do at Webflow, I want to just know a little bit more about yourself. Like what do you like to do besides building for Webflow? What do you do on your off time? Yeah, so just tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so lots of pandemic hobbies that have sprouted that I didn't really have before. Of course, plants, big one. I love making little plantscapes with just like putting multiple plants in a planter and like organizing them artistically. That's been something I've been doing. Cooking, and just going on a lot of walks with my dog. So yeah, traveling is out of the question, or it has been, but that would have been one before the
Yeah,
pandemic hit as well.
yeah. So all your plants are doing well. Did
I'd like
are
to
you?
think so.
Oh, I see one in the background right now. I'm not sure. Is
Oh,
that yours?
yes. Yeah, that yeah. I don't. All my other ones are hidden on the side, but yeah.
Okay, it looks like it's doing well. Did you get into that bread making phase? I saw
Oh
that on
no.
Twitter. Like everyone was.
Uh, I'm not patient enough for baking, so no. I just skipped that. I skipped that part of the pandemic, that hobby
Okay.
phase.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, I've talked to you since we're both colleagues. I've talked to you multiple times, and I've met you in person a couple times. But um, I want to know, more importantly, how is Yoshi? How's Yoshi doing?
Yoji is doing great. He is my tiny love of my life, Chihuahua. Yes, he's living his best life.
Awesome, awesome. And is he in the room right now? Can we see him, or is?
He's quarantined because he might bark in the middle of the stream, and that is a no-no.
Oh,
So he's in a
okay,
room off
okay.
somewhere else.
He's probably chilling. Okay,
Yes.
that's awesome. Well, yeah. So say hi to Yoshi for me,
I will.
please.
I will. I will give him a big hug on your behalf.
Awesome. So, chat, this is Katie Chat. And again, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop in the live chat and I will ask them to Katie. But let's get into your career and how it started and went to Webflow. So, I saw this tweet recently. You posted on March 11th. You posted, it's been about 4 years since I quit my last full time job before pursuing a career change. Cut to now, and my salary has almost tripled. I think more than the salary, what brings me the most pride is doing a job that high school or college me would have never considered an option. So, very interesting that you didn't think that engineering would be something in your career path in your life. So, can you tell me where did this start? Like where did your journey into your career start and how did you get to Webflow?
Yeah. So it is quite the story. When I was in school, going all through, grade school, high school, college, STEM was never really an option for me. I never thought of myself as good at math, good at science. They had no interest in technology.
And just a
Um,
side note, STEM means science, technology, engineering, and math for
yes,
those who haven't heard of that acronym.
yes. So yeah, for me, those were always my least favorite subjects. I would absolutely dread anything related to those subjects. I was more of a English person, history, not into math and science at all. And because of that, I've always discounted a career that would be within STEM, and kind of just gravitated more towards the creative type of subjects and things like that.
Now
And
I'm really interested because you didn't like STEM at all, but now you live it for at least 4 years. So okay,
Yeah, yes. And so when I went to college, I'm from Hawaii, and so I went to the University of Hawaii. I did a double major in marketing and Japanese language slash literature,
okay,
uh, and a minor in women's studies, with the hopes of eventually getting into a marketing role focused on localization. So I really wanted a role that would allow me to help bring American products to Japan and kind of fill those cultural gaps when it comes to marketing. And the women's studies minor was there just so that I could be more aware of social issues and things that I guess like the negative sides of capitalism, which as a marketer, I wanted to be intentional about doing ethical marketing, if that makes
mm,
sense, just to be aware of the
yeah,
message I'm putting out and making sure it doesn't harm communities. That was the goal.
yeah.
But then I ended up moving to San Francisco on a whim, basically, and realizing,
Did you just like throw a dart or something? Like what is this whim? Like you spun the
yeah,
globe, throw a dart, and said there.
yeah. Well, basically, what had happened was I was working a corporate job in Hawaii in the tourism industry, and absolutely hated it.
Mm,
I realized that I was kind of like an admin assistant, and I didn't feel like I was using my degrees. I felt like I was just there to scan papers and print and run errands, and it wasn't. And I had to, like, it was very strict. I had to clock in at 7:30 and like be dressed up and have the whole makeup and everything. It was just, I was just really over that. And so after doing that, I had a cousin of mine say, "Well, if you don't like corporate, you should join startup." And I was like, "What's a startup?" In
okay.
Hawaii, I feel like we are very shielded from, or especially like 5 years ago when this was all going on, I had no idea startups were like really a thing. And
Yeah.
so um my cousin was like, "Oh, you should go to San Francisco because they have a lot of startups there, and it's very different from corporate, and it might be more towards what you're looking for in a job." And so I said,
Makes sense.
"Okay." And so within a month, I moved to San Francisco. It was very fast. And kind of coming out of college and doing and having done well in school my whole life, I was like, it'll be easy peasy. Like, everyone's gonna want me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so smart. But then, kind of getting hit in the face with reality that
Yeah.
I didn't have any connections there. And it's very much a who type of an industry. And and I realized in hindsight, I was just getting further and further away from uh, basically Japan, because that was like my goal, was to do localization in Japan. And
Yeah.
so there are companies in Hawaii where they kind of bridge those gaps in marketing between Japan and the US, but less of those opportunities in San Francisco. And
Yeah.
so um, I basically accepted a role doing customer support at a startup that was basically me just answering phones and doing email support day in and day out about cleaning products. And I don't have strong opinions on cleaning products, and they weren't paying me enough to care about cleaning products. I could only still afford like Costco brand bulk size cleaning products anyway. So I was like, I don't know what I'm doing in this job.
I
Uh,
really don't understand what's a startup life for cleanup products. So okay, I'm with you there. I'm with you
yeah,
there. So
it was very out of the realm of my interests, let's
yeah.
say. And so, but while I was there, I ended up getting coffee a lot with engineers, which I had no idea software engineer was a role, because I had lived my life in the business department of
Yeah.
university and language department. I had no idea about computer science or anything like that. And
Yeah.
so I met the software engineers and we got coffee, and they realized, wow, you're pretty miserable and you're not doing a job that is
You're
using
not
your full
reaching your
potential.
full. Yeah.
Right. Like, I
Yeah.
felt very if it was a very mundane role, and I felt unfulfilled. And so they, pushed me for a while and told me, you should learn how to code. And, at the time, I didn't know what that even meant. I thought coding was, I took like one computer science course that was mandatory in college, which just was binary. And so that was my idea of coding, was binary. And so
So
I
you
was
thought,
just
oh, go on, go
I
on.
was just to say, it's like I just thought it was like a bunch of zeros and ones, and there's like an enter key and maybe a backspace key, and you're just like 0 0 1 0 1 0 enter 0 0 1 backspace
Yeah, that's what
backspace.
we all do. Yeah, yeah, that's what all engineers do. They
Yeah,
never type anything. There's only what.
they never it's just numbers. And so that was my idea of it, and then they were like, absolutely not, that is not what we do. And I was like,
It's not like the
oh,
movies where you like see green, like
yeah, yeah, like the
Matrix or
Matrix.
something,
Yeah, I mean that was like my idea, is just like, dark room, the black screen with the lime green text and
and
zeros and ones.
sunglasses on in the
Yeah,
dark room.
yeah, like that was my impression. And so it took, a few bits of like prodding until one of the engineers told me it's like learning a second language more than math. And for me, like having enjoyed learning language, like that is kind of when the interest clicked for me. I was like, oh, if
Hmm.
it's more like learning a language than doing math problems, than doing algorithms and calculations all the time, maybe it might be fun. And so I had a friend at the time who was a copywriter at Udemy, and she said, if you want to learn how to code, at least the basics, you should just get a cheap course on Udemy and see where that takes you.
There you
And
go.
so, yeah, but like the very basic. If any of you have been on Udemy and search web development, then there's the Colt Steel Web Development Bootcamp 101, or I forget whatever it's called. But that's like the one that everyone does. And so, yeah, I started doing that, and it was like, oh, it kind of put a light bulb in my head. Like, this is kind of fun. It's like a little puzzle, but like
Yeah,
not mathy, overly complicated. What?
mathy.
Yeah. I was like, I want to do as little math as possible. But yeah, I felt like for me, it was a creative outlet because I am a creative person, but I'm not good at art.
Yeah.
And so for the first time in my life, I was able to have an idea of something in my head, of how I want something to look. And then I could easily just put it on a web page without having to actually draw, because I'm bad at drawing. And so this was like the first time I was able to actually translate something in my head to something that is like visible and exactly what I want it to look like. So
Yeah.
that was a big moment for me. So yeah, I decided to pursue it full time. Moved from San Francisco to Portland so that I could attend a boot camp. Otherwise, that would have been way too expensive.
Wow. So you jumped in deep into this. You're like, okay, this is it. This is.
Yes,
It felt like this was your new calling. Did you feel
right.
like did you feel like you found yourself when all of after the boot camp? You're like, I think this is me now. Like, did you feel
Um,
that?
Not really. So what actually happened was, after I did the boot camp, I definitely had a very bad case of imposter syndrome and burnout, to be honest. So after finishing the boot camp, I actually decided that I don't want to be a software engineer. I want to be a product designer. I want to be a product designer. This is what I actually want to do. I think I could do this better than code. I don't want to code. Um, and then I would go to like I did a few product design interviews, and I got through to like the on-site stage, but I could never get an offer. And I was just like, dang it, like I don't want to code. And but then eventually I realized I was getting more traction when it came to applying and interviewing for engineering roles. And so it kind of made me think, maybe this isn't so far-fetched of an idea. Like, maybe I am good enough to pursue this as a career. um, and then yeah, I did a bit of contracting and then found Webflow, and I've been here ever since.
Okay, okay. So, just to recap, uh, you wanted to go into marketing, and you had a great goal of bringing what is it, American products to Japan or Japan products to America. What was that?
American products to Japan. That
Yeah,
was the
okay.
goal.
And he had a great goal about that, but then found coding. You went through a boot camp, and then you went through boot camp, and then you got kind of burnt out. Went to try to apply for a product design, but now coding is the thing. So you mentioned that you got into Webflow. Now I want to know, like, what was that? Like, what got you interested into to Webflow? Because no one just like, hey, hey Vlad, how you doing? Can I have a job? Like that doesn't just happen. So like, what was that process? What was that journey like?
So what had happened was I was contracting with this company, and actually, that company had Nelson come and do a presentation
I remember
on
that.
on Webflow, because part of what I had to do for that company was build a Webflow site. And prior to that, I had never heard of Webflow. I didn't know what Webflow did,
Mm-hmm.
and then Nelson kind of ran like an hour long like basic, this is how you use Webflow. And so I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. And then I think it was a few months later, I tweeted out that I was looking for a full-time role,
Mm-hmm.
and Vlad slipped into my DMs and was just like, hey, uh you should
Oh, I was
apply
just
here.
joking about
Yeah, no,
that.
he
Hey,
really
but he really did. Okay.
no, he really did. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so then I went through an interview process. And because it was my first role, it was kind of like I ended up getting hired, but as an apprentice. And prior to that, there had been
Wait, is an
two.
apprentice like a temp, or like what is the temp? Is that like a
So,
part time, full time?
yeah, so apprentice was basically it's a full time employee that has all the benefits of
Okay.
a regular Webflow employee. It's just that it's kind of like what your level, just like slightly above, slightly below entry level, like an IC. So like um, IC 1. So that's like
Okay.
the lowest level of like
And IC means individual contributor.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you. So it's like you level in right below there, and so it's kind of like you are put on almost like a timeline of like, okay, well, after X amount of months, usually 4 to 6 months, depending on your performance, you can be promoted to IC 1 from apprentice. It's kind of just like this,
Oh.
we like what you're doing, we like you, you're not quite at IC 1 yet, but we're gonna level you up to IC 1, and then from there you can get like yeah, title change, and like basically like a promotion.
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, there were two apprentices before me, and it was kind of just like an ad hoc type of thing, no
Okay.
formal program or anything, and so that's how I got into Webflow.
So you still had to do an interview, right? Like,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
okay. So
I had to go through like the basic, the full interview. It was just at the end of the interview, it was kind of like, oh, well, this is where we think you level. And we also like we will extend an offer, but we are leveling you as an apprentice, kind of a thing.
so just to back up a little, you mentioned that you were burnt out with um other paths in your career, and then going into a startup that that really burnt you out even more. Like, what
Mhm.
made you like, you're like, Webflow, like, how how did you get over, like, okay, is like, how did you feel comfortable applying to Webflow even after Vlad reached out to you, like?
I think it was definitely the interview process at the time. Because I had been going through a lot of interview processes with other companies, and um, that really had burnt me out a lot. Just kind of like the lack of a personalized experience. It was very
Yeah.
much technical, and for me, like being someone who comes from a different background and not a computer science major, um, it was kind of disheartening to see how a lot of other companies were very focused on your technical know-how, when it's like, I know personally for me that the I have so much more to offer than that, and like I have so many other skills that I bring, that for me, I still would say this, I still believe this to this day, where it's like I feel like my technical skill is probably one of the things I'm least proud of compared to all of the other skills that I bring to the table. And so when companies were interviewing and it seems like that's the only thing they care about, it was just like, but I have so much more to offer. Like, I know what I can do. I'm like, I'm valuable, but it was hard to get that message across when it's
Yeah.
just like, do these algorithms or do these things. And yeah, so with Webflow, um, there was a lot more of a personalized process. I felt like, even when it came to like the technical portion of the process,
Hmm.
I was pretty upfront. So it was kind of like a moment of like, I got the challenge and I was like, this is way outside of my wheelhouse. So do I, one, be honest, or
Yeah.
two, like admit defeat? And so
Okay.
um, I had basically, at the time one of our core values was radical candor, and so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, in the name of radical candor, I will be honest, because they gave us like a set time. Oh, this challenge should take this long, and I
Yeah.
knew that after that time had elapsed, I was just like, there's no way I can finish this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not even 10% done. Like, this is not gonna happen. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I was very honest, and I told our director of engineering at the time, just like, hey, I don't think I can do this. Like, I could keep hammering on it for more hours, but then that would be dishonest
Yeah.
because um, I'm supposed to finish it in this allotted time. And so if I take more time than that, then that's not being honest.
Yeah.
And but I do, I do still am interested in working here. It's just that I can't pass this.
Yeah.
And so he basically set me up with an engineer that worked at Webflow, and um, allowed me to pair with her. And so like we kind
Oh.
of had like a back and forth over the course of like a week. And like I would basically like, it was through email, like I would email her like, hey, I did this, can you check it, or like, things like that. And then we would like get on Zoom calls, or I forget if we use like Google Hangouts or whatever we use, but
Wow.
yeah. And so through there, it was kind of like going through this code review process with each other and like going back and forth. And that was really cool to me because, I was almost expecting him to be like, can't do it, too bad, so sad. But
Yeah.
they gave me an opportunity to like actually work with someone, kind of like how the job would really be. And so that left a very like good taste in my mouth. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that was the first part of the interview
Well,
process. And so
good
that
for
was
you for being honest. Like, hey, you know what? That like I'm just gonna be honest with you. I can't do it within the allotted time. And also, I didn't know that Webflow still like even during the interview process. Don't worry, we got you. You're gonna pair up with someone, and it's just nice because like when it comes to working at a company, it's not just doing the work, but
mhm,
it's also like how you present yourself, how you do the work, and also on the other end, how they present themselves and how they do the work. Does
right,
the vibe on both sides mesh?
right.
And I didn't know about that part. Like that was part of the interview process that you got to work with someone who's already an employee of Webflow. That's pretty cool. So that's that whole personalization thing you're talking about.
Mhm,
That's awesome.
mhm.
I remember in one of my past job interviews, I was being honest too, and it was just over the phone, and they were asking me some questions about CSS, and then they're like, I forgot what the question is, but I still remember my answer because they said, oh, hold on, I don't know that answer. Wait, yeah, okay, so the answer is this, and they're like, how'd you know the answer? I was like, I googled it. I was just honest on the
Yeah, I
phone,
mean, well, that's the job. Google is always
right?
available.
I mean, without Stack Overflow, where would we be?
Nowhere.
Exactly. Um, but yeah, so I totally feel on that. So now that you're in Webflow, working at Webflow, what is it like? Like what is it like? What's the culture like? Like see give us some of behind the scenes. Give the community some behind the scenes on what it's like to work at Webflow.
That working at Webflow the one thing that really sticks out in my head are my coworkers. I think that the people that work here are all a group of the most fun and empathetic people I've ever not only just worked with but met. I think that a lot of them, it has a very caring environment. I mean, like, as far as the teams I've been on, I've always got along with nearly everyone on my team, and it feels very much like you can rely on each other. I think that there's a lot of fun programming that they have, especially being a remote first company. There's a lot of opportunities to just have like virtual events, where you feel like, oh yeah, I do work at a company and there are people behind the screen, which is easy to forget sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that, what else? What else is it like working here? I think that just in general, like, I really enjoy just the atmosphere in, like, overall, just the, like I said, yeah, I'm the people amazing, and so I feel like social events, things within the team, or even if life gets busy and there you're not able to fully fulfill your job duties, or there's something going on in your life, the team is
Yeah.
always willing to help pick up where you aren't able
Yeah.
to.
Very supportive.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
supportive. The environment is like, yeah, there's a great work life balance. I feel like none of the teams I've ever been on have encouraged me to work overtime. It's kind of, it's understood that you
That you
clock
have a
in, you clock,
life.
yeah, you have a
Yeah.
life outside of work. Like,
Yeah.
you don't, you're not expected to be on at all hours. And I think that um a lot of the teams I've been on as well, it's like people aren't on at all hours, or people aren't on super late, and so it makes you feel like you're not expected to do that also,
Yeah.
which I appreciate, because
Yeah.
I'm very much one of those people who I'm like, okay, clock out, like, time to go have my real life.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yoshi is waiting for me.
he's
And
waiting.
yeah,
He's
yeah. I mean, you got to clock in and clock out. Like he's like, oh, "Where's my food? Where's my walk? Let's
he
go,
wants to
let's go."
play. Yeah, he's very demanding, and I am his mother. I have to oblige. So
Of course, and your plants and
there's just so much
just
to
so many
do.
things outside of coding.
Yes, yes.
Right. So, uh, your one of the cool things about working at Webflow is there's these like sub communities within our staff, and we call them affinity groups. And you're the lead of the Asian affinity group here at Webflow. So, can you tell us more about that program and what the group does?
Yeah, so at Webflow, we have a few ERGs, which stands for Employee Resource Groups. And
Mm.
so the one I lead is Asians at Webflow. And so these different affinity groups are just meant to be a place for people of certain identities to get together and feel like they can, bring their whole selves to work, or into at least a certain Slack channel, and, share things. And so with the Asian affinity group, I started that with a coworker back in 2021, beginning of 2021, and since then we've done um, various events, such as that boba making event, which you just saw the photo for. We've done, sorry, siren, um,
It's okay.
but we've done like Chinese or like Lunar New Year events.
Yeah.
We've had programming for May, which is Asian Pacific Islander month as well. So having speakers and Jeopardy, just different things for the internal community, and also larger Webflow employee community, and also even going externally to having content that went out around the Asian employee experience at Webflow. So yeah,
Oh.
it's been great. Love all the people in there, and I think that these ERGs, these resource groups, are a great way for employees at Webflow to just feel a greater sense of belonging, and that they can be more candid and be more themselves, where they might not be able to feel that within their own teams. So
It's that whole support structure that is just like everywhere at Webflow.
mhm.
So yeah, it's amazing, and yeah, it's fun to be in that group. And I see CJ in the live chat saying bubble tea is very key to a successful team.
It's true. It's I feel like that is like 80% of our affinity group Slack channel. So
There it goes. There it goes. So, yeah, your title here at Webflow is design system engineer, and titles are just titles, right?
mhm.
But what does that mean? What does the design system engineer do at Webflow?
Yeah, so prior to joining the design system team, I kind of worked on product or like, different features and stuff within Webflow. But now, as part of the design system team, it's kind of like bri- bridging the gap between the design team and the product design team and engineering, and kind of
Mhm.
finding ways to standardize things and make things easier for both teams to work together and to build. So that means like making sure we're all using the same type of language, building components so that engineers can just easily grab them and put them into their features, and these these components have been, you know they're good to go. They've been approved by design. They've been approved by the accessibility team. Just like that is our golden dream, is just to be able
Wait,
to.
you just found your spot in the world of STEM, because like we've been talking about your past career where you're like, I'm trying to become a product designer, but I
Yeah.
know code and I know a little bit about software engineering, but I don't want to do like like that like hardcore like so much. And so you're the bridge between those two.
Yes. Yeah.
So
And I
that
think and no, it's great. And I feel like for me, one of my strengths that I'm really proud of is that kind of just like building relationships with people
yeah,
and facilitating communication. And I'm just very like, I don't know, like organization kind of things and like
yeah.
process. Those types of things are what I actually really enjoy doing. And so it's kind of like, it's not something that a lot of software engineers enjoy doing. So it's kind of bringing this special skill set within the role of software engineering and being able to just kind of like do it and make a
Yeah.
big impact. And like, I don't know, it just feels great to finally be doing the type of work and like have that impact that I've been looking for. So it's great.
Awesome. Awesome. So you streamline the two sides, designs and engineering. So you stream that line in a way so I think I cut you off about it. Sorry. But
Oh
like
no,
so,
it's
so
okay.
how do you streamline it, and like is there any examples of how that came about in any features that you helped build in Webflow?
So the way that it kind of works, or that we're hoping for it to work a little bit more seamlessly, because we are kind of in the earlier stages of trying to figure out what does this mean.
Hmm.
But ideally, it would be just creating components so that uh, engineers on product teams can easily just know exactly which component they need when they're building a feature, and they're components that we've built, and so they just like grab it and put it in the code, and they know it'll work, and they know that it's like accessible, or they know exactly how to make it accessible, and they know that the design has been approved. The design of the component has already been approved by the product design, because right now we don't really have that seamless communication, and there's a lot of friction that happens
Yeah.
between the two teams sometimes. So hoping to kind of just like, yeah, facilitate better communication and make it just seamless.
Oh, okay. And I really like hearing that accessibility is being baked into the actual process. That's awesome to hear. Is there any like features that you can share with us that you helped work on for the community?
So previous to joining the design system team, I've helped with larger breakpoints. I've helped with interactions. Polite handover was a big one, and also workspaces.
Huh? Yeah. Oh, okay. So you were behind the scenes and helping some of these out, and so I think obviously one of the large ones is interactions. A lot of people using that, the new workspaces. Oh, polite handover. Yes, thank you so much for that, because again, like how many times even here in Webflow or like in the marketing team or something, we have to be like, "Hey, are you done with this project? Because I need to go in it."
Oh yeah.
and having those kind of Slack DMs like, hey, I need to do something. Are you out? And then next thing you know, they forgot that they left the tab open. You're like, are they working all night? Like, what's going
Yeah,
on?
that was definitely an interesting product to work on or feature to work on, because the fact that you have to have two different, when you're testing it by yourself, you have to have like two different windows open, and you're just like, okay, request control from myself. And then it's just like everything is just chaotic. But yeah, I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad the community likes it.
Yay! Yes, yes. Also, yeah. So, workspaces, polite handover, large breakpoints, IX2, and I know you can't talk about what you are working on right now, but whatever it is, thank you, thank you. So, one of my last questions before we get into the ones from the Q&A. Actually, I have two more questions. One, was there anything that you've seen built by our wonderful community using Webflow that amazed you? Because I know that you work just behind the scenes using you are in the matrix now.
I'm 001
Yes,
0110
that,
all day long.
yeah, that's um and so what do you like that caught your eye from the community?
So I was a guest judge on the recent No
Yeah.
Code Conf speed building challenge that took place, and I have to say that those projects absolutely blew my mind. Previous to that, I had only really ever seen the Webflow projects in like website form, like, oh, this is like a website, a marketing site, things like that. And while very pretty and polished, I was like, okay, it's like a site. But this was my first exposure to seeing what people can actually do with Webflow in terms of building something absolutely creative and not a website,
Yeah.
with just like with animation and interactions, and the speed at which they could do it.
Yeah.
I struggle with just making a div fade in or something. Even as someone who builds Webflow, my ability to use Webflow is not so great, and so to see these projects were absolutely amazing. I have to say that I was cheering on JP. I loved the locket thing and all of
That
the
was really
beautiful
cool.
poetry. I don't know. I was just blown away by all of it. Everything. It was
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, so amazing. All right. Um and last question from me. Back in 2019, our Webflow company had a retreat. It was one of our last in-person retreats before the pandemic, and like one of the sessions we had was all about dreaming big. And what I love about that is like people come up with crazy ideas of where to take Webflow, even if it's not something we can do just yet. But dream big is just that. Like, where would you take this? Where would you take this platform? And I really loved your idea, and I think it was called Mindflow,
Yes.
and and it, was it like you wanted the what was Mindflow again?
It was basically like you put a colander looking device on your head, and you are able to design in Webflow using your brain. Um, yeah, that's dreaming big.
So Mindflow with a colander.
Yeah, it's like with some tinfoil.
Awesome. Has Elon Musk contacted you yet about your idea? Like, did he want to invest using Neuralink?
No, but he should. I should get some royalties or something for coming up with that idea.
That would, if it actually comes to fruition,
Yes.
please let me know because that would be amazing. I need a website.
Yeah, that's no code, no hands, just brain.
No code, no hands, just brain. That's your tagline for
That's the
Mindflow.
tagline.
Nice. All right, we're gonna open up to Q&A from the community. I think we have only we have a few. I think. Let's see here. We have some comments. Parker is saying hello, loving this story. Christopher is saying love the connection so much. Development unlocking creativity is super powerful. Um, and okay, so we have this question from Marine from Texas. He's asking, do you recommend boot camps, self study, or universities And also, what's your favorite programming languages?
Okay. So as far as programming languages, I've only ever went over Ruby and Rails and JavaScript. And right now I use JavaScript. We use React. So I love JavaScript. I mean, okay, comparatively, as much as someone that can love programming language, I guess. But I prefer it. And as far as the boot camp versus self study versus university, I will say that, obviously, if you get a computer science degree, a bachelor's in computer science, that already kind of puts you ahead of other candidates who didn't do that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is kind of still the lay of the land. Well, while it is, people do hire people, or companies do hire people without uh, computer science background, it still is a nice little shiny stamp on a resume. I feel like there are still some companies that require that. Um, but I will say, if you've already done your bachelor's in something else, you've already gone to university, or if university is too expensive, I don't think it's required. I don't think you need to go back to school to get a computer science degree. I didn't. Now, as far as boot camp versus self study, I will say choose your boot camp wisely. I think there are a lot of boot camps that are not very ethical. I think that there are a lot
Mm,
of boot camps that are selling people a dream that they're not willing to help fulfill, and especially at an expensive price. So I will say boot camps can be the way to get a job in software engineering or do a career change, but be careful on where you enroll and
yeah.
thoroughly look into reviews, because not all boot camps are honest.
Is
Um,
there any red flags? Is there any red flags that someone should be aware of if they're looking at boot camps?
I wouldn't say a one size fits all type of a thing, but I will
Mm,
say that if a boot camp has like a lot of marketing and seems very hyped up, just do a quick Reddit search or something and just make
mm,
sure, because a lot of times um, it's all kind of a fabricated narrative. And once you hear from the people who've actually been in the boot camp, they'll tell a very different story about how there was no support or how they feel like they didn't learn anything.
mm.
And some boot camps are very, very expensive, or they take a large percentage out of your first year of income once you get a job.
Oh
That's kind of
wow.
like, yeah, that's kind of like their shtick might be like, oh, you don't have to pay for the boot camp until you get a job, but once you get a job, you have to pay X% of your income. And
Whoa.
so just be aware. I will
Yeah.
say self study obviously is the most cost effective, but you aren't getting the same amount of structure you would be getting in like a formal boot camp program. So you would have to be very disciplined in that way. But I will say self study is a good avenue if you aren't able to take time off of work, if you have to like, continue doing your
Yeah.
day to day life. Boot camps sometimes require a lot more time, and full-time boot camps is like working a full-time job. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of privilege tied to being able to do a full-time boot camp. So there are different avenues. Kind of find us whichever way works for you.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I guess that's all the time we have for the questions. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Katie. Um, actually, I have one more question. Um, if you have if you have any advice to someone who is looking to um to apply for Webflow, you know, even if they're coming in as an apprentice or even an or IC1 individual contributor one type of level, entry level, uh but they're like still on the fence about it, like what advice would you give them about working at Webflow and to apply?
I think that, speaking from my own experience of applying, and it was a long time ago, and so like I feel like, obviously the process has changed a lot. But I will say that if you're going into it and you feel a little bit of that imposter syndrome, just go in with the mindset of, I have a lot to offer other than just my technical contributions, and really highlighting work you've done outside. Maybe you've done stuff in the community, or maybe you've
Cool.
contributed to open source, things like that, just to just to set you apart from, maybe other people who are also applying for that level one role. I think that showing that you are capable of doing, and interested in doing a lot more things just than coding, and you are like a full,
Yeah.
well-rounded person, I think that that goes a long way.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, we got one last minute question that came up. Not sure who this is from. What is a source of inspiration, either personally or professionally, for you?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Huh. What is a
Yochi.
source? I mean, he is. I have to make money to help sustain his lifestyle. No, I feel like for me, something that keeps me going and something that, in my day to day work and outside, just something that, uh, I guess, like, I really value are cultivating relationships and building community. And so, in whatever field of my life that is, maybe it's work, maybe it's outside of work, I very much like building relationships and getting to know people. And through that, I get inspired by other people because I like to hear their stories and, all that kind of stuff. And so, for me, a source of inspiration is just, I would say, people.
Yes.
People.
Yes. Well, I enjoyed hearing your story and being inspired by it. And you were immersed in engineering in a different way. That's very unusual. But you found your way here. Thank you so much for all the contributions you've had to the platform, to the community, to the Asian Affinity Group. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to say to the community before we let you go?
I'll just want to say thank you all for watching and supporting the Webflow community. Y'all are amazing. I feel like there are very few communities that are as engaged as the Webflow community. And so that kind of, at least on the product side, knowing that it's our work is appreciated and seeing, all of those reactions when a feature we've been working on for so long has finally launched, let's just say that the team goes wild when there are positive tweets or reactions to things. So we really appreciate all of, the nice things you have to say and for being with us. So thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Katie. And also, if you're interested, anyone who's watching this, if you're interested in joining Webflow, you can go to webflow.com/careers. And on this page, you can see what our mission is. You can see our core behaviors. And you can see what the perks are and what people have to say about working here at Webflow. But yeah, if you're interested, check it out and then maybe click join us to see all the roles that are open. And there are a lot. I don't think I've seen the list this long before, but yes, uh, there's a lot of space for a lot of people to join Webflow. So go check it out. Katie, again, thank you so much. For everyone else who's in the live stream, the next stream next Wednesday, we're going to do another build with me. It's build with me number 3, I believe. It is building a mega menu with Webflow components and making them accessible. So thank you all so much. If you're talking in the live chat or if you're just watching or you're watching recording, I say this every time, but I truly mean it. We appreciate each and every one of you. All right, so that's it for this stream. We'll see you next time. And as always, make the web beautiful together.